Look, I need to be honest with you right now. When I enrolled at the Galactic Institute of Advanced Learning, I thought the hardest part would be the quantum mathematics exam. I was wrong. So catastrophically, hilariously, terrifyingly wrong. My name is Krell, and I am a Voxum. We are tall, thin, dignified beings with smooth gray skin and 3 fingers on each hand. We pride ourselves on our logic, our composure, and our absolute dedication to peaceful resolution. We have not had a war on our planet in over 6,000 years. Violence is something we read about in historical texts, shake our heads at, and then promptly forget. That peaceful worldview lasted exactly 43 days into my first semester, until the day Amber Hayes walked into advanced xenobiology class. Let me back up a bit. The Institute accepts students from over 900 different species across the galaxy. Most of us come from what the administration calls standard environment worlds. Nice temperatures, breathable atmospheres, maybe some mild weather patterns. You know, civilized places where the most dangerous thing you might encounter is a strongly worded letter from your local government representative. Then there are the Deathworlders. Deathworlders come from planets that are, and I am not exaggerating here, actively trying to kill everything on them at all times. Extreme gravity, toxic atmospheres, predators with teeth the size of your arm, weather patterns that could strip flesh from bone. These planets are nightmares, and the beings that evolve there are, quite frankly, terrifying. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. That is the highest classification. That means Earth is not just dangerous, it is a cosmic horror show wrapped in a pretty blue package. And Amber Hayes was from Earth. Now here is the thing. The Institute has very strict rules about Deathworlders. They have to take special orientation classes. They have to sign about 47 different waivers acknowledging that what they consider normal might cause other species to faint, vomit, or simply expire on the spot. They have to wear monitoring bands that track their stress levels, because apparently Deathworlders under stress become even more dangerous than Deathworlders at rest. Most importantly, they are not supposed to share classes with standard students until their 3rd year, after everyone has had time to adjust to the concept of beings that could theoretically rip your limbs off without even trying. So naturally, due to some administrative error that I am certain someone got fired over, Amber Hayes ended up in my advanced xenobiology class on day 43. I remember the moment she walked in. Professor Thelan was mid-lecture about the reproductive cycles of gastropoid species, which is exactly as boring as it sounds. The door hissed open, and she chafed inside. She was short by human standards. I later learned, maybe 5 feet 5 inches. She had dark brown skin, curly black hair pulled into a ponytail, and brown eyes that seemed to absorb everything in a single glance. She wore the standard institute uniform, a simple gray tunic and pants, but somehow on her it looked different. Dangerous. Maybe. Or perhaps that was just my knowledge of what she was coloring my perception. The entire class went silent. 53 students from 22 different species, and you could have heard a feather drop. Professor Thelan, to his credit, barely paused. He was Aquilian, covered in soft blue fur with 6 eyes arranged around his head. He had probably been briefed. Ah, yes. Class, this is Amber Hayes. She will be joining us for the remainder of the semester. Miss Hayes, please find a seat. Amber smiled. It was a small, polite smile that did not quite reach her eyes. Thank you, Professor. Her voice was calm, measured, almost too calm. I would learn later that humans do this thing where they deliberately control their voices to avoid alarming others. It rarely works. The only empty seat was next to me, of course it was. She walked over, her movements smooth and controlled, and sat down. I tried very hard not to stare. I failed. Hi, she whispered, leaning slightly toward me. I'm Amber. You are? Krell, I managed to whisper back. Voxian. Nice to meet you, Krell. She smiled again, then turned her attention to Professor Thelan. I spent the next 20 minutes trying to focus on the lecture and failing miserably. Every few seconds I found myself glancing at Amber out of the corner of my eye. She was just sitting there, taking notes on her datapad, occasionally nodding at something the professor said. Completely normal student behavior, except she was a human, from Earth, a Deathworlder. After class, my friend Pix caught up with me in the hallway. Pix is a delphinian, which means he looks like a cross between a dolphin and a grasshopper. It is less unsettling than it sounds. I promise. Did you see her? Pix said, his voice high and nervous. The human? In our class? I sat next to her, I replied. Pix's eyes went wide. All four of them. You what? You have any idea how dangerous humans are? They come from a planet where everything is trying to eat them. They evolved as persistence predators. Do you know what that means? I know what persistence predators are, Peaks. They chased their prey until it died from exhaustion. They did not use venom or claws or pack tactics. They just ran after things until those things gave up and died. What kind of species does that? I held up my hands. She seemed nice. Nice? Pix's voice went up another octave. Krell, nice is not the issue here. The issue is that she could snap your neck with her bare hands. I do not think she would do that. You do not think. You do not think. Pray. Humans have a thing called adrenaline. When they get scared or angry, their bodies flood with chemicals that make them faster, stronger, and basically immune pain. They become living weapons. Pix, please calm down. I am calm. This is me calm. You want to see me not calm? No, thank you. Over the next 2 weeks, Amber became a regular fixture in our class. She was quiet, diligent, always prepared. She answered questions when called upon, and her answers were usually correct. She even helped Professor Thelen set up a rather complicated holographic display of a gastropoid nervous system. Slowly, very slowly, the class began to relax around her. Not completely, mind you. Every time she moved too quickly or laughed too loudly, at least 3 students flinched. But we were adjusting. I found myself talking to her more often. We were lab partners for a dissection project, and she was surprisingly knowledgeable about xenobiology. How do you know so much about Vorlian anatomy? I asked her one day, as we carefully examined a preserved Vorlian organ under a microscope. She shrugged. I read a lot. Plus, this stuff is fascinating. I mean, look at this. She pointed at the organ. See how the capillary system branches? It is completely different from human biology. We have this linear flow system, but Vorelians have this radial distribution model. It is so much more efficient for their body structure. You find this fascinating? Do you not? I suppose I do. I just did not expect a human to. She looked at me, one eyebrow raised. What did you expect? I do not know, something more violent perhaps. Amber laughed. It was a genuine laugh, warm and a bit loud. Half the class looked over nervously. Kel, just because we come from a death world does not mean we all sit around punching trees and wrestling bears. Do humans actually wrestle bears? Some do. Yeah. Not me though. I prefer reading. That is reassuring. Is it? Somewhat. Things were going well. Too well, I should have realized. The universe has a sense of humor, and it is not a kind one. The incident happened on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are apparently significant to humans for reasons I still do not fully understand. Something about them being worse than Mondays. But without the weekend in sight. Human psychology is complicated. We were in advanced xenobiology about halfway through the class. Professor Thelen was discussing the defensive mechanisms of various species, specifically how different beings evolved different strategies to avoid predation. Now take the Vorelian species, Professor Thelen was saying, his fur rippling in that way it does when he gets excited about a topic. They evolved a fascinating chemical defense system. When threatened, they can secrete a compound that causes temporary paralysis in most predator species. Most species? One student asked. Her name was Lyra, a centauran with beautiful silver skin. Yes, most. There are always exceptions. For example, species from high-stress environments tend to have resistances to various toxins and chemical defenses. It is an evolutionary necessity. Amber raised her hand. Yes, Miss Hayes? Would humans be resistant to Vorelian secretions? Professor Thelen paused, his eyes rotating to focus on her. That is an excellent question. Based on what we know about human physiology and Earth's environmental pressures, I would hypothesize that humans would have at least partial resistance. Your species evolved alongside some of the most toxic organisms in the known galaxy. Your own planet has spiders that can kill you in minutes, plants that cause agonizing paralysis, And jellyfish that can stop your hearts. Hearts, plural? Someone asked nervously. Humans have one heart, Amber said calmly. But yes, Earth has a lot of things that can kill you. You kind of learn to deal with it. How does one learn to deal with that? This was from a student named Vora, a reptilian species with green scales and a nervous disposition. Amber smiled. Carefully, the class laughed. Even Professor Theln made a clicking sound that was his species' equivalent of laughter. That is when Trell made his move. Trell was a Koruvian. Koruvians are large, muscular beings with thick gray skin and prominent ridges across their foreheads. They come from a world with higher gravity than the standard, which makes them strong by most species' measures. They are also known for being aggressive, territorial, and more than a little arrogant. Trell had not liked Amber from day one. I think her presence bothered him on some fundamental level. Here was this small human from a Deathworld, getting praise from professors and respect from other students. Meanwhile, Trell was used to being the physically dominant presence in any room. Trell stood up suddenly. His desk scraped loudly against the floor. "This is ridiculous," he announced loudly. The class went silent. Professor Thelen turned, all 6 eyes focusing on Trell. "Mr. Trell? Is there a problem?" "Yes, there is a problem." Trell pointed at Amber. "Why is she even here? This is a class for serious students, not Deathworld curiosities." Amber did not react. She just sat there, her expression calm, watching Trell with those dark eyes. Professor Thilen's fur flattened, a sign of anger in Quillian's. "Mr. Trell, that is completely inappropriate. Sit down immediately." "No." Trell took a step forward. "I am tired of pretending this is normal. She is a human, from Earth. Do you know what humans do on their world? They hunt, they kill, they are predators. As are Korvax," Professor Thelm said sharply. "Sit down, Mr. Trell, or leave my classroom." Trell did not sit down. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a knife. The entire class gasped. Several students screamed. I felt my blood go cold. Weapons are absolutely forbidden at the Institute. Absolutely. There are sensors, scanners, security protocols. The fact that Trell had somehow smuggled a knife into the building was shocking enough. The fact that he was now holding it, pointing it vaguely in Amber's direction, was grounds for immediate expulsion and criminal charges. Professor Thelen moved immediately, reaching for his emergency communicator. "Security, this is Professor Thelen in room 417. We have a student with a weapon. I need immediate assistance." Trell ignored him. He was staring at Amber, his expression twisted with anger and something else. Fear. Maybe. "You think you are so special," Trell said, taking another step forward. "You think everyone should just accept you because you come from some nightmare planet? I want you to know that you do not scare me. You are small. You are weak. You are nothing." Amber still had not moved. She was sitting at her desk, her hands visible on the desktop, her posture relaxed. But something had changed in her expression. The polite smile was gone. Now she just looked calm. Unnaturally calm. "Trell," she said quietly, "put the knife down." "Or what?" Trell laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. "What are you going to do, human?" "Nothing. I am going to do nothing. But you should put the knife down before you hurt yourself." "Hurt myself?" Trell's grip on the knife tightened. "You think I am the one who is going to get hurt here?" Yes, that single word, delivered in that calm, flat tone, seemed to infuriate Trell. He moved forward quickly, raising the knife. What happened next took maybe 3 seconds. Maybe less. It is hard to say. Time does a funny thing when you are watching something terrifying unfold. Amber moved. One moment she was sitting at her desk. The next she was on her feet, inside Trell's reach, her right hand clamping down on his wrist. There was a sharp cracking sound that made my stomach turn. Trell screamed. The knife clattered to the floor. Amber's left hand came up, catching Trell under the chin. Not a punch. Exactly. More like a palm strike. But the force of it lifted Trell off his feet, all 250 pounds of him. He flew backward, hit a desk, and crashed to the floor. The entire room was silent except for Trell's whimpering and the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Amber stood there for a moment, breathing calmly, her expression still neutral. Then she looked down at Trell. who was cradling his wrist and trying to scoot backward across the floor. "I told you to put the knife down," she said. Then she smiled. It was not a cruel smile, not exactly. But it was not comforting either. It was the smile of someone who had just proven a point, who had been vindicated in some fundamental way. It was the smile of a predator who had just reminded everyone in the room exactly what she was. Security burst into the classroom moments later, 4 armed guards with stun weapons. They took in the scene instantly. Trell on the floor, the knife nearby, Amber standing a few feet away with her hands visible. "She attacked me," Trell yelled, his voice high with pain and fear. "That human attacked me." One of the security officers, a tall female Zendarian with purple skin, looked at Professor Thelen. "What happened here?" Professor Thelen explained quickly and efficiently. The student pulled a weapon. The student threatened another student. The other student defended herself. Security should review the classroom recording to confirm. The security officer nodded, then looked at Amber. "Miss Hayes, are you injured?" "No, ma'am." "Did you use excessive force?" Amber paused, considering the question. "He came at me with a knife. I disarmed him and neutralized the threat. I did not continue the attack after he was down." "I think that is pretty restrained, all things considered." The security officer almost smiled. "Almost. Indeed. Please remain here while we sort this out." They took Trell away on a medical stretcher. His wrist was broken. So was his jaw. There was some speculation that he might have a concussion as well. Amber sat back down at her desk like nothing had happened. She picked up her datapad and resumed taking notes. The rest of the class just stared at her. I realized I was shaking. Not from fear, exactly, though there was some of that. More from awe and shock, and a dawning understanding of what Deathworlders really were. Professor Thelen cleared his throat. "Well, that was unexpected. Let us continue with the lesson. We were discussing chemical defense mechanisms. Now, as I was saying before we were interrupted, different species evolve different strategies." His voice faded into the background. I could not focus on the lecture. None of us could. We were all too busy trying to process what we had just witnessed. After class, I caught up with Amber in the hallway. "Are you okay?" I asked. She looked at me, surprised. "Yeah, I am fine." "Why?" "You just broke someone's wrist and jaw." He pulled a knife on me in a classroom. "What did you expect me to do? Politely ask him to stop?" "I suppose not. But you moved so fast." "Not really. I mean, for a human, that was pretty standard reaction time. He telegraphed his move way in advance. I had plenty of time to respond." "Standard. Right." I shook my head. "Amber, you need to understand something. What you just did, that is not standard for most species. That is terrifying." She frowned. "I was defending myself." "I know. And you were within your rights. But you also just demonstrated exactly why other species are afraid of humans. You took down someone twice your size in less than 3 seconds. You made it look easy." "It was easy." Trell was slow and uncoordinated. He did not know how to handle a knife properly. He was basically just waving it around and hoping I would be intimidated. Most species would have been intimidated. Well, I am not most species. "No, you are not." We stood there in the hallway for a moment. Other students were giving us a wide berth, walking around us, whispering to each other. "Are people going to treat me differently now?" Amber asked quietly. I considered lying. I decided against it. "Yes, probably." She sighed. "Great. That is just great. For what it is worth, I do not think you did anything wrong. Trell was dangerous. You stopped him. That is a good thing. Then why do I feel like I just made everything worse?" I did not have a good answer for that. The story spread through the Institute like wildfire. By the next day, everyone knew about the human who had taken down a Koruvian with her bare hands. The details got exaggerated with each retelling. In some versions, she broke both his arms. In others, she threw him through a wall. One particularly creative story had her ripping his spine out, which is anatomically impossible but made for good drama. Amber became simultaneously famous and isolated. Students pointed at her in hallways. Professors called on her less often in class. People gave her space, lots of space. Whenever she walked by, she handled it with grace. I have to admit, she did not complain. She did not lash out. She just kept showing up to class, doing her work, being polite to everyone, but I could see it bothered her. The isolation, the fear, the way people looked at her now. One day, about a week after the incident, I found her sitting alone in the cafeteria. This was not unusual. She always sat alone now. I walked over with my tray. "Mind if I join you?" She looked up, surprised. "You sure you want to? I hear I am dangerous." "So I have heard. I am willing to risk it." She smiled. A real smile this time. "Sit down, Krell." I sat. We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then I asked, "What is Earth really like?" She put down her utensil and thought about it. "It is beautiful, and deadly, and home. We have oceans that can swallow ships whole, mountains that touch the sky, deserts that burn in the day and freeze at night. Forests where every plant and animal has evolved to survive against impossible odds." It sounds terrifying. It is. But it is also where I learned to appreciate life. When everything around you can kill you, you learn to be grateful for every sunrise. You learn to be strong. You learn to fight when you have to and run when you should. You learn that being afraid is not the same as being weak. Is that why you reacted the way you did? In class? I reacted the way I did because someone pointed a weapon at me. On Earth, if a predator comes at you with intent to kill, you have two choices: fight or die. I chose to fight. Most species here have never had to make that choice. I know that is why I scare them. You do not scare me. She looked at me for a long moment. Why not? Because I see you for what you are. Not a monster. Not a curiosity. Just a person trying to survive in a place that does not quite understand you. Her eyes got a little wet. Humans do that when they are emotional. Thank you, Krell. That means more than you know. You are welcome. We finished our meal together. And for the first time since the incident, Amber did not look quite so alone. But the story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Because Trell was expelled from the Institute. And his family was not happy about it. Not happy at all. And Koruvians, as I mentioned, are territorial and aggressive. They are also very, very good at holding grudges. So, let me tell you about Koruvian family honor. Actually, on second thought, let me tell you about Koruvian family honor while I hide behind this reinforced door. That seems safer. Koruvians believe that an insult to one family member is an insult to the entire bloodline. They also believe that honor can only be restored through direct confrontation, preferably violent confrontation. They have an entire cultural tradition built around revenge, which they call the Reckoning. When I learned that Trell had 3 older brothers currently enrolled at the Institute, I immediately went to find Amber. She was in the library, naturally, surrounded by datapads and holographic displays. She was researching something about Earth's ocean ecosystems, because apparently, even after breaking someone's jaw, humans still find time for academic pursuits. Amber, I said, keeping my voice low. Libraries have rules about volume, even during emergencies. We need to talk. She looked up, adjusting her glasses. Yes, she wore glasses. Apparently some humans need corrective lenses. I found this oddly charming and also slightly concerning. If humans with imperfect vision were this dangerous, what were the ones with perfect vision capable of— Hey, Krell, what is up? Trell has 3 brothers. Here. At the Institute. She blinked. Okay? Amber? Koruvians practice something called the Reckoning. It is a family honor tradition where they seek revenge for perceived insults. Perceived? Krell. He pulled a knife on me. I defended myself. That is not an insult. That is self-defense. You broke his wrist and jaw. He came at me with a weapon. What was I supposed to do? Let him stab me? Of course not. But Koruvians do not see it that way. To them, you humiliated their brother, their family. They will want satisfaction. Amber leaned back in her chair and sighed. Great. Just great. So what do I do? Apologize for not letting myself get stabbed. I do not think an apology will help at this point. Then what? I hesitated. Maybe you should request security protection. Or transfer to a different campus. Or possibly leave the Institute entirely and pursue your education somewhere safer. She stared at me. You want me to run away? I want you to be safe. Krell, I appreciate that. I really do. But I am not running away because some guy's brothers are upset that he lost a fight he started. That is not how I was raised. How were you raised? To stand my ground. To not back down from bullies, to fight when necessary, and to never ever show fear to predators. But what if there are 3 of them? She smiled that smile again, the one that made my spine tingle. Then I guess we will find out if 3 Koruvians are enough. That was not reassuring. The first brother showed up 2 days later. His name was Koruvian, and he was even larger than Trell. About 6.5 feet tall, heavily muscled, with the same gray skin and prominent ridges. He found Amber in the hallway between classes, blocked her path and crossed his arms. "You are the human," he said. Not a question. A statement. Amber stopped walking. So did about 30 other students, who immediately sensed drama and decided this was better than whatever class they were heading to. "I am a human." "Yes. If you are looking for a specific human, you might need to be more precise." Oh, she was using sarcasm. This was either very brave or very stupid. Possibly both. Koruvian's eyes narrowed. "You injured my brother. Your brother pulled a knife on me in a classroom full of witnesses." I defended myself. "The security footage confirms this. The Institute administration confirms this. Your brother was expelled for bringing a weapon onto campus and threatening another student. If you have a problem with that, take it up with the administration." "I am taking it up with you." "That seems unwise. Are you threatening me?" "I am advising you. There is a difference. I have no interest in fighting you, Koruvian, but if you attack me, I will defend myself, just like I did with your brother. And you will end up just like your brother. Possibly worse." The hallway was dead silent. Everyone was watching, waiting. Koruvian took a step forward. Amber did not move, did not flinch, just stood there, her hands at her sides, her expression calm. "You think you are tough because you come from a death world," Koruvian said. "But you are small, weak. My brother was caught off guard. That will not happen with me." "If you say so. You do not even look scared." "Should I be?" Koruvian reached out, fast, trying to grab Amber's shoulder. It was a dominance move, meant to intimidate, to show physical superiority. His hand never made contact. Amber moved, a quick sidestep that put her just out of reach. Koruvian stumbled slightly, off balance. "Do not touch me," Amber said quietly. Koruvian snarled and reached again. Amber ducked under his arm, moved behind him and kept walking down the hallway. "Have a nice day, Koruvian," she called over her shoulder. "I swear I heard someone in the crowd laugh." Koruvian heard it too. His face flushed darker, which is what happens when Koruvians get angry. But he did not attack. Not there. Not in a crowded hallway with witnesses and security cameras. Koruvians are aggressive, but they are not stupid. That night, Pix and I met Amber at her dormitory. Well, outside her dormitory. We were not allowed inside because of some regulation about interspecies interactions in living quarters. Honestly, the Institute has too many rules. "You embarrassed him," Pix said. All 4 eyes wide with worry. "You made him look foolish in front of other students." "He made himself look foolish," Amber replied. "I just did not let him grab me. That is not how he will see it. Now you have angered 2 brothers. How many does he have again?" 3 total, I said. "Koruvian, Kellen and Drevak." Amber groaned. "They seriously named 4 brothers with names that sound almost identical." "That is just confusing. It is a Koruvian tradition," I explained. "Brothers in the same family have similar sounding names to show unity." "Well, it is a terrible tradition. How am I supposed to keep track of who wants to fight me if they all sound the same?" "Maybe that is the point," Pix suggested. "Psychological warfare. If that is their strategy, they need better strategists." Despite her calm exterior, I could tell Amber was worried. She kept looking over her shoulder. Her hand kept moving to her pocket, where I knew she carried a small emergency communicator. "You could still request protection," I suggested. "Or file a complaint with administration." "And say what?" "That someone tried to grab my shoulder in a hallway." "They did not actually attack me, Krell. They just postured. If I go running to administration every time someone postures at me, I will spend all day filing reports. Better than spending all day fighting." "Is it, though?" Ix made a high-pitched noise that was his species' equivalent of a scream. "You are insane. You know that?" completely insane. You should be terrified right now. Amber looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, very quietly, I am terrified, Pix. I have been terrified since I got here. Do you think it is easy, being the only human on this campus? Do you think I enjoy having people stare at me, whisper about me, treat me like I am some kind of exotic animal? I am scared every single day, but I do not let that fear control me. I cannot afford to. Pix went quiet. So did I. I am sorry, Pix said finally. I did not realize. Most people do not. They just see the Deathworlder, the dangerous human. They do not see the person who is homesick and lonely and just trying to get an education. I felt terrible. How had I not seen this? How had I not realized how hard this was for her? We are here for you, I said. Whatever happens, we are your friends. Amber smiled, and this time it was a sad smile. Thank you. That means everything. The second brother, Callan, showed up 3 days later during lunch. He was smarter than Koruvian. Instead of confronting Amber directly, he started spreading rumors. Vicious rumors about how humans were violent savages who could not control their temper. How Amber had attacked Trellang unprovoked. How she was a danger to everyone on campus. Some students believed him. Most did not. Especially after the security footage of the classroom incident was leaked online. Someone had anonymously posted it, and within hours everyone had seen it. The footage showed exactly what happened. Trell pulling the knife. Trell threatening Amber. Amber giving him multiple chances to back down. Trell attacking. Amber defending herself with minimal force necessary to stop the threat. It should have ended the rumors. It did not. Callan kept pushing, kept talking, kept trying to turn people against Amber. He was strategic about it too. He never said anything that could be considered a direct threat. He never violated any institute rules. He just poisoned the well slowly and methodically. Amber tried to ignore it. She kept going to classes, doing her work, maintaining her routine. But I could see it wearing on her. The isolation was getting worse. Students who had been warming up to her were pulling back again. Even some professors seemed more distant. Why does he not just fight me? Amber asked one day. We were in the cafeteria, at what had become our usual table. If he wants revenge so badly, why not just get it over with? Because he is trying to break you first, I explained. Korvaxes believe in total victory. Defeating you physically is not enough. They want to defeat you mentally and socially as well. That is unnecessarily complicated. That is Koruvian culture. Koruvian culture is exhausting. I could not argue with that. The breaking point came during midterm exams. Amber was scheduled to take her advanced xenobiology practical exam in one of the lab rooms. The exam involved identifying various alien specimens, explaining their biological systems, and demonstrating proper dissection techniques. It was worth 40% of her grade. She never made it to the exam. Kalanindravak, the third brother, caught her in a stairwell on the way to the lab building. It was a blind spot in the security camera coverage. They had planned this. I know this because I was following her. Not in a creepy way. I was worried. I had a bad feeling all day and my instincts told me to keep an eye on her. So I saw the whole thing. They came at her from both directions. Kellen from above, Drovak from below, trapping her on the landing. Both of them were bigger than Trell had been. Both looked angry. Time for the reckoning, human, Kellen said. Amber dropped her bag. It hit the floor with a thud. 2 on 1, she said. Very honorable. You dishonored our family. There is no honor in dealing with you. Fair enough. So how do you want to do this? Both at once? Or should I kick your butts one at a time? Kellen moved first. He was faster than Trella had been, more coordinated. But Amber was ready. She dodged his first punch, ducked under his second, and delivered a sharp kick to his knee. There was a cracking sound. Kellen screamed and went down. Drovak came at her from behind. He was smarter, trying to grapple, to use his size and strength advantage. His arms wrapped around her from behind, lifting her off the ground. Bad move. Amber threw her head back, slamming it into Drovak's face. His nose shattered. Blood sprayed. His grip loosened. She drove her elbow back into his ribs. Once, twice, 3 times. I heard bones crack. Drovak dropped her. She landed on her feet, spun around, and kicked him in the stomach. He flew backward, hit the wall, and slid down. The whole fight lasted maybe 15 seconds. Amber stood there, breathing hard, looking at the two Koruvians on the ground. Galen was clutching his knee. Drovak was trying to breathe through his broken nose and possibly broken ribs. Then she looked up and saw me. Krell? How long have you been there? Long enough. Did you record this? I held up my data pad. Every second. Good, we are going to need that for the report. We called security. They arrived within minutes, along with medical personnel. Kellen and Drakper Sakalan and Drakper Sensor. Emer gave her statement. I provided the recording as evidence. The security chief, a grizzled old Heptorian with scales and tired eyes, reviewed the footage inside. Miss Hayes, this is the third incident involving you in the same family in 2 weeks. Yes, sir. I am aware. You seem to attract trouble. Trouble seems to attract me, sir. I would prefer a quiet academic experience, but apparently that is not in the cards. The security chief almost smiled. Well, at least you document well. This recording clearly shows self-defense. They trapped you in a blind spot, attacked you 2-on-1. You had every right to defend yourself. Thank you, sir. However, we have a problem. There is still one more brother. Korvan. Yes, and he is the eldest. The most dangerous. He will not make the same mistakes his brothers made. What do you suggest? Honestly, I suggest you request a security detail or a transfer. Because Korvan will come for you, and when he does, it will not be in a stairwell. It will be somewhere more private, more dangerous. Amber nodded slowly. I understand, but I am not leaving. This is my school too. The security chief looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Stubborn. Like all Deathworlders. Fine. But be careful. And keep recording everything. Yes, sir. That night there was an emergency student assembly. The dean of students. A dignified Valorian with silver skin and too many arms, addressed the entire student body. It has come to our attention that there have been multiple incidents of violence on campus involving revenge-motivated attacks. Let me be absolutely clear. This behavior will not be tolerated. The Institute is a place of learning, not a battlefield. Any student found engaging in revenge attacks will be immediately expelled and face criminal charges. She paused, her many eyes scanning the crowd. Furthermore, I want to address the rumors and social dynamics surrounding these incidents. Miss Amber Hayes has been repeatedly attacked and has repeatedly defended herself within the bounds of appropriate self-defense. She is not the aggressor. She is not the problem, and anyone who continues to harass, threaten, or attack her will face the full consequences of their actions. There was murmuring in the crowd. Some supportive, some angry. I saw Korvan sitting in the back, his face dark with rage. This was not over. 2 days later I received a message on my datapad. It was from an anonymous sender, but I knew immediately who it was from. Meet me at the old maintenance building at midnight. Come alone. If you want to help your human friend, you will be there. I showed the message to Amber. It is a trap, she said immediately. Obviously. So what do? We spring the trap, but on our terms. Amber smiled. I was hoping you would say that. We contacted security, showed them the message, worked out a plan. Then we waited. Midnight came slowly. I have never been good with suspense, and this was torture. But finally it was time. I walked to the old maintenance building alone. At least it looked like I was alone. In reality, Amber was following me at a distance, along with 6 security officers in plain clothes. They all had stun weapons and recording equipment. The maintenance building was exactly as creepy as you would expect. Old, dusty, full of shadows. Perfect place for an ambush. I stepped inside. Hello? I am here. What do you want? Lights came on. Bright, blinding lights. I shielded my eyes. When my vision cleared, I saw Korvan standing in the middle of the room. He was not alone. There were 5 other Korvans with him. All big. All armed with metal pipes and improvised weapons. Where is the human? Korvan demanded. I have no idea what you are talking about. Do not play games with me, Voxian. You are her friend. You spend time with her. You defend her. Where is she? Why do you want to know? Because this ends tonight. My brothers are in the medical center because of her. My youngest brother was expelled because of her. She has brought shame on my family. I will restore our honor. By beating up a student, that is your idea of honor? By defeating the one who defeated us. Yes, I laughed. I could not help it. You really think you can beat her? Your brother pulled a knife and she broke his wrist in 3 seconds. Kellen and Dravak attacked her together, and she put them both down in 15 seconds. What makes you think you will do any better? Because I am prepared. Because I have help. Because I will not underestimate her. And because you brought 5 friends and a bunch of weapons to fight one unarmed student. Very honorable. Korvan's face darkened. You mock me. I mock your definition of honor. You talk about restoring your family name, but all I see is a coward who needs 6 people and weapons to fight one person. That did it. Korvan stepped forward, raising his pipe. That is when Amber walked in. She came through the side door, casual as you please, hands in her pockets. Hey, Korvan, got your message. Well, technically Krell got your message, but I figured you really wanted to talk to me. All 6 Korvaks turned to face her. You came, Korvan said. Of course I came. I was not going to let you hurt my friend. That is not how we do things on Earth. 6 against 1 human. Are you really that stupid? Amber looked at the 6 Korvavans, at their weapons, at their aggressive postures. Then she smiled. 6 against 1? Korvan, I think you miscounted. The security officers stepped out of the shadows. All 6 of them, all armed, all pointing stun weapons at the Koruvians. The head security officer, the same Heptorian from before, stepped forward. Korvan and Associates. You are all under arrest for conspiracy to commit assault, possession of weapons on campus, and threatening a student. Put down your weapons now. Korvan looked around. At the security officers. At Amber. At the recording devices that were capturing everything. He dropped his pipe. It clattered on the concrete floor. The other Korvanans followed suit. This is not over, Korvan said, staring at Amber. Yes, it is, Amber replied. Your brothers were expelled. You will be expelled. Your family honor cannot be restored through violence. It can only be restored through accepting responsibility for your actions. But that is up to you. Security took them away. All 6 of them in restraints, furious and defeated. I looked at Amber. Are you okay? I am fine. Better than fine, actually. That felt good. What felt good? Winning without fighting. Outsmarting them. Proving that humans are not just violent brutes. We can think, we can plan. We can win with our brains instead of our fists. I smiled. You really are something special. You know that. I am just a person trying to survive, Krell, just like everyone else. No, you are more than that. You are proof that Deathworlders are not monsters. You are people, complex, intelligent, compassionate people who happen to be very, very good at surviving. The next day, the dean held another assembly. She announced that Korvan and his associates had been expelled. She also announced new policies to prevent revenge-based violence. Stricter monitoring. Better security. More support for students from non-standard worlds, and she publicly apologized to Amber for not doing more to protect her sooner. Amber stood up when her name was called. The entire auditorium was silent. Thank you, Dean. I appreciate the apology. But I want to say something to everyone here. She paused, looking around at the thousands of students from hundreds of species. I know I scare some of you. I know that coming from a death world makes me different. But I am not here to hurt anyone. I am here to learn, just like you. And I hope that maybe, through all of this, we can learn something together. That being strong does not mean being violent. That being from a dangerous world does not make you a dangerous person. And that fear is not a good enough reason to hate someone. There was silence for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Then another person. Then another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was applauding. Not everyone. Some students still looked nervous. Some still looked scared. But most were clapping, supporting her, accepting her. I saw Amber wipe her eyes. Humans cry when they are emotional. I was learning to recognize the signs. After the assembly, Pix, Amber, and I sat in the cafeteria. Our usual table. Except this time, 3 other students asked if they could join us. Then 5 more. Then 10 more. Within minutes our table was surrounded by students from a dozen different species, all wanting to talk to Amber, to hear her story, to apologize for judging her. Amber handled it with grace and humor, answering questions, sharing stories about Earth, laughing at jokes. She looked happy. Finally, genuinely happy. "You know," Pick said, leaning close to me, "I think we just witnessed history. The day a Deathworlder became accepted at the Institute." "Not just accepted," I corrected. "Respected. Is there a difference?" "All the difference in the world. Or in this case, all the difference in the galaxy." 3 months later, Amber aced her final exams. She finished second in our class, just behind a brilliant Koruvian named Seth, who had a photographic memory. She was invited to join the Institute's Honor Society. She was offered research positions by 3 different professors, and she became friends with dozens of students from dozens of species. The cafeteria table that had once seated only 3 now regularly hosted 15 or more. We became a fixture, a diverse group that represented the best of what the Institute could be. One day, near the end of the semester, Amber and I were walking across campus. The sun was setting, casting the buildings in orange and gold light. "You know what the funny thing is?" Amber said. "What?" "I came here expecting to have to prove myself, to show that humans could handle academic life, that we were not just violent savages, and I did prove that, but not in the way I expected." "What do you mean?" "I thought I would prove it through my grades, through my research, through being the perfect student. But instead I proved it by defending myself, by standing up to bullies, by showing that strength can be used to protect, not just to destroy." "That is a good lesson. It is a human lesson. We learn it young on Earth. Because we have to. When you grow up on a world that is constantly trying to kill you, you learn that strength without compassion is just cruelty, and compassion without strength is just weakness. You need both." I think a lot of species could learn from that. Maybe. Or maybe they will just keep being scared of us. Some will. But not everyone. Look around, Amber. Look at how many people are here because of you. Because you showed them that being different is not the same as being dangerous. She smiled. "When did you become so wise?" "I have been hanging out with a human. It rubs off." We walked in comfortable silence for a while, then Amber stopped and looked at me. "Thank you, Krell, for being my friend. For believing in me when nobody else did. For standing by me even when it was dangerous. That is what friends do. On Earth, maybe. But not everywhere. Not always. So thank you." I did not know what to say to that, so I just nodded. We continued walking. 2 students from vastly different worlds, bound by friendship and shared experience. And somewhere behind us, a dozen other students followed, laughing and talking, proving that the galaxy was a little bit smaller, a little bit kinder than it had been before. Because that is what happens when you give people a chance. When you look past the fear and see the person underneath. That is the real lesson I learned from Amber Hayes. Not that humans are dangerous. Not that Deathworlders are scary. But that courage, kindness, and determination are universal. They transcend species. They transcend worlds. They make us all a little bit more human. And maybe that is not such a bad thing after all.